Hey, Who's Missing listeners, coming to you with an update from one of our season 4 guests. Steph Piccirilli provided us with one of the most moving episodes of the season, due in large part to her vulnerability, recounting her father, Al, and what he had been through, what he was going through, which is terminal cancer, and how he went through those things. It made such an impact on Steph, and I know made an impact on many of you too. So we want to honor Al Piccirilli in his passing last week, October 2024, with a bit of an episode from May 2024. We hope this walks with you through whatever you're journeying through, if it's grief, or if it's joy, or if it's a whole bunch of things in between.
I think the biggest challenge with my dad is my dad refuses to understand how old he is. And so he's in his head, he's still 40. And so he wants to do everything that a 40-year-old does, which I think is great. I hope when I'm his age, he's 80 now, that I will want to feel like I'm 42 as well. But it gets him into some trouble sometimes because he sometimes does stuff he's not supposed to do.
So, how is Al acting out? We love you, Al, if you're listening.
My dad was, this was so funny. Oh gosh, dad, don't kill me. So, dad loves the garden. Okay. And when summer comes, there's nothing keeping him between him and his tomatoes. And he will plant tomato plants come hell or high water. So, um, one day we got a call from my aunt and frantically, and she's like, "Your father is at the machinery rental place trying to rent a rototiller and load it into the back of his car."
Al.
So I called him, and the funniest thing is my dad sent my phone calls into voicemail every single time.
So he's aware. He's aware he's pushing his limits, and he's going to push anyway. Good for Al.
Yeah, he's aware. So he
Yep.
loaded that rototiller in his car, drove it home, took it
Yep.
out to the garden, and put those tomato plants in. So
I feel like if I get the pleasure of meeting him, I'm going to be like, so what are some of your hobbies? Do you like to garden? And just see if he volunteers it.
I'm sure you're going to get a definitely abridged version of what I just told you, but he'll be all about, oh yeah, tomatoes, I put them in. He'll probably ask you if you want one as well, and that next time you're in town, that can he give you a tomato plant to take with you? Because I think he feels like everyone in the world should have a tomato plant at their house.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Is probably his question. Thinking about, caring for people who are close to us is something that's shared humanity experience. And I wonder what your experience has been like making this most recent transition with your dad into a new reality for him. It sounds like, and definitely one for you. How has it affected how you guys connect?
It's been difficult, I have to say. When my dad first got his cancer diagnosis, it was 2019. And my dad was always one of these individuals in my life that I always felt was invincible and could do anything. And he was someone who I always pulled that courage from, and that kind of fire in my belly was from my dad. And so, when he got his diagnosis, he still had that same kind of fire in his belly, and he seemed like he was just gonna attack it, and everything was gonna be okay. And I think I believed it too. And my sister and I were like, okay, yeah, Dad's gonna beat this. And when we realized that it wasn't gonna go away, and it was something that we just had to manage, I think it changed a lot of things for us. All of a sudden, here's this person who's invincible. And this is really I think a selfish thing on my part, is that, okay, now there's this person who actually has something that's hard to deal with, and I can't fix it. Because my dad was always like, we can fix everything. Nothing is ever broken. We'll always make sure it's okay. And when my dad arrived at the place of, I can't fix this. I wish I could, and I can't. I think that was hard because all of a sudden, like your mortality starts to become really real, and kind of that fire that's there starts to feel like it diminishes a bit. And so it's hard to like kind of stay in it and like, always have like that positive attitude about it. When you come to that realization, like this is what things will look like going forward. So like we're in this space right now with my dad where we don't really know like what the future looks like. And sometimes I feel like we're making it up day by day with him. And I think he's making it up day by day too. I think he's kind of like in a place of fighting it, but realizing he's going to have to accept it and he doesn't want to. So it's hard to watch him go through that. And I wish there was something that I could do. I feel a little helpless.
Yeah. It's reminding me of this feeling that I explore sometimes around how hard it is for people to grieve together, and just sort of it's like it's sad, but the compulsion culturally is like stay positive, right? And I wonder, especially in your line of work and also as a daughter, like how you balance internally, right? The staying positive and allowing for the grief to be there. You not only with Al, I feel like I know Al now.
Al would love you too. Like, my dad loves people, like, he can go in anywhere and, like, meet and talk to people, like, it's just incredible. I can't tell you how many times throughout my life people are like, "Oh, I know your dad."
Yeah, charming, effervescent, and, a fan of, bending the rules, which I kind of am too. I guess stuff, right? Like, we know the future is unknown, so we're going to, be optimistic about it, but also grieve that it's hard. How are you doing with that in general?
Gosh, I'm about to get choked up right now, just an aside note. Um, because, like, well, so here's one thing I will say, and this is just kind of how I'm wired, is, for me, the work that I do outside of my home and the work and the love that I give to everything inside my home, to me, there's, like, no beginning and end. And I don't feel like it's an unhealthy mix. I mean, I have boundaries and I've learned to be able to balance my life, but, like, in many ways the common bond between everything is my desire and my like spirit to serve, and like that's kind of how I feel about my family and my children and my dad and how I feel at work. Like, I'm here to provide support and service to individuals and to like leave this place in a better state than what I found it when I arrived. And I think for my dad and kind of like going through what he's going through in his life and how I think about that at work is that the time clock is ticking much louder in my brain, when it comes to helping my family and serving my family and my dad, but also doing this work at Ignite as well. Like I think the grieving that I'm doing is that there's going to be an end, and I don't want to sound morbid, but like there's going to be an end to my time here at some point. And how do we as people like make the most of it and really leave things in a place that people can thrive after we leave. And I feel that way about my children. I mean, even with my dad, like my sister and I talk about this all the time. We're like, how do we ensure that dad's years are as beautiful and full as possible? And like, how do we make sure we show up for him in a way that makes it possible for him to feel that way? Um, and then, like, those are the same sentiments I have at work. How do I show up at work and make sure that all the young people and the staff that come through our doors um, are living into like every aspect of their life that they want to live into? And how do I show up to make sure that they have all of the opportunities that are meant for them? So there's a lot of like similarities. And I think for me, like going through this with my dad at the same time, It's just much more real every day for me.
Let's just talk about like end of life for a moment, because I think whenever I even notice this in myself, stuff like whenever end of life, you mentioned his cancer unfortunately, it can't go into remission, right? My dad had a similar battle and fought, and then he died. And maybe we're not talking about like what's imminent, but just the thinking and the planning and the awareness that that happens. What do you make of just your own experience with, I don't know, interacting with that reality? Like some of us want to avoid it. Arnie and I just did our wills. Like I can't say it was fun. Uh, but I can say that the older I get and maybe the more I experience, the less afraid I am of like what it means to talk about, you know?
Gosh, I guess there's some fear there. I feel like for me, with my mom passed away in 2020, and when you lose a parent, it's like you lost a tether to something, like this thing that was like kind of grounding you and tethering you to something in the world just like snaps. And so like what's been present for me, and this is like very self-centered and it's not about my dad, but like there's part of me that's like, okay, my dad is coming to this end, that the second tether is leaving. Um and it then, I have children, and it just takes you like all of a sudden you start going down this like kind of rabbit's hole, like thinking about the impact of when someone leaves and what it has on your life, and like what do you want to leave behind. I know my husband and I've talked about wills and things like that. Like I haven't done it either, and I need to do this. And there's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm at the age now. I mean, like Al is in me. Like when I was a little kid, people used to call me Little Al. They called me Little Al. Like I resembled my dad. Everyone would be like, "It's Little Al. Here comes Little Al." I very much have like that, like passion to deny my age, deny what's possible. I think anything's possible. I'm like a tireless idealist.
Yeah, yeah.
I could be thrown into a situation where, like, all of the cards are stacked against me, and I'll be like, "There's still time. We can still do this." So, there's moments too where I'm like that with my dad's health too. I'm like, "No, no, no. There's still like,
Yeah.
got it. Like, there's still things here to fix." So, I think that it is like, wow, okay, I've got to think of reality a little bit more. I do feel a little bit invincible, like, I'm gonna get up every day and like go about doing what I need to do.
Couple reflections. One was the tether, and I think about in your work and how I've known you. So I met you for coffee. Gosh, it must have been 2 years ago. Um, and it was one of those coffee dates where I was like, oh, I think we're going to change the world. So I just want to say, being a tireless idealist, no wonder you don't listen to anything in the car, right? Because you've just put so much out there, right? And it's like, I just need to let it all settle. But that your energy for that, the little Al in you, like has enabled me to have tireless energy, right? So it is a I think this is the great myth in some ways, right? Love is so regenerative. And I really see what you're talking about as love. Um, and putting love out there. And then it's like, ooh, okay, I can work with this. And then I put love out. And then like we're vibing. So that's one reflection. And the other is this, the invincibility allows you to set some pretty audacious goals. So I know you because I'm a director on the board for Ignite. And it is your audacity that I was like, oh, yeah, let me be a part of this, right? And so I wonder if we can sort of switch to, the work part, because I could talk to you for approximately 4 days.
Yeah, I could too. I could talk.
But that's who comes on this podcast. I'm like, I feel like everyone needs to know stuff.
and you piece things together in such a beautiful way. You're, speaking to my heart.